You know what it is, baby? Tomorrow, the beta comes out. And we need to prepare ourselves more than ever with another 2 tips. And these 2 tips are basically going to be controller settings and obviously the hardware, the controllers. Because we cannot underestimate the controls. Alright? When we talk about button layouts, we need to focus on how we comfortably hold the controllers personally. Obviously we got the keyboard warriors that have literally everything at their fingertips. Got them? The only problem is console players. Mainly the priority of the right analog stick and the jump and crouch buttons. That's literally the biggest problem with controllers. These buttons are prioritized for maneuverability, and you only have one thumb on your right hand. Unless you're different, you know, I'm not going to judge. But that's where the trouble begins. The problem starts when you take your thumb off the lock button, the right analog stick, to either jump or crouch in a mid-fire fight, you know? This takes your ability to multitask away, and you're left stuck in that one direction while jumping / crouching. Or sliding. The seconds that you took to press these buttons seriously costs you everything. There are some people who play claw, which is very fucking freaky, you know, mad respect to you lot, but I can't play claw. I've tried and I have failed. But claw is where they sort of wrap their unused fingers, so you got the middle finger and you got, you know, the other 2 fingers, you know, your pinky and, you know, the one in between that we'd never talk about. But these fingers are not being used, you know, everyone uses their thumbs and index fingers and that should be it. But they wrap the unused fingers on the controller, around on top of the controller, press the jump and crouch buttons, which means they do not have to take their thumb off the analog stick, and they basically just won at life. But it's a nightmare to get used to, and I just can't. There's even a version of claw called octopus, and I simply can't wrap my head around how to do this, but all the power to them, I guess. Fucking hell, I'm going to put a photo up if you haven't seen what octopus claw is, and best believe it, I ain't going to be doing that anytime soon. Hey, all the power to them, the game's the game, and they won. But for us more simple folk, we make one of either 2 important decisions. Stick and move, or tactical. This takes the knifing function, pressing down on the right analog stick, and swaps it for either jump or crouch. This increases your movement by being able to have less time moving your thumb to press either of the buttons. But if you chose jump, for example, you will still have to take your thumb off the analog stick and press crouch. So it's still hindered. You are still hindered in some way. There are other options of bumper jumper tactical that replaces one of your bumpers, R1 or L1 on PlayStation, for example, with jump, and your analog stick with crouch. Basically, having the ability to shortcut one of these functions will help you with jump shotting and drop shotting. I can't use bumper jumper tactical. If you want to shoot, you just use your middle fingers on the triggers, innit? Pretty simple, but I'm pretty sure this was with Halo. I can't use this in COD. I've tried using it before. I've tried all of these different, you know, settings, and they just don't work for me. Maybe I'm too smooth brained for this, but it's not. I can't do it. But as long as you manage to shortcut one of those functions, jump or crouch, whichever one you preference, with the right analog stick, it'll be amazing for jump shotting and drop shotting. A huge example of this making your life easier is Warzone. Most people, when they select tactical, replacing the analog stick knife with slide, allows you to slide cancel in quick succession, which means you get a lot of coverage, you run a bit quicker, you move a bit faster, and it's really good for Warzone. I haven't spoken about flipped also. So the distance between the face of the triggers and the insert of the controller that you press the button into, there's a lot, has a gap. The triggers have gaps, that's why they're called triggers. You want to press them and feel like you're pressing a trigger, and the bumpers are just buttons, aren't they? They're not triggers. It'll take more time to press the trigger than it does the bumper. It's basic. Basic science. It would take longer to press the trigger down on a controller than a bumper. Changing aim and fire to your bumpers save so much vital time. And it could be the difference between winning or losing a firefight. I've played a game of Shipment, and I first decided to use the triggers, and I was getting a lot of late reactions, I'm not going to lie to you. Swapped it to bumpers, and everything was a lot more, instantaneous, you felt a bit more fluid with the controller. And that is a huge change when it comes to changing your settings, because you need to get used to all of these different controls and sensitivities. You have to mess about with all of these controls. You have to see what different settings do for you. Most pro players use a lower sort of sensitivity, but I kind of get a bit uncomfortable when there's a low sensitivity, because when I'm aiming, to go from one target to another will take too long. So what I do is I'll have a high sensitivity, but when I aim down my sights, I'll make it lower sensitivity. So say now your sensitivity is 9, for example. You want your zoom sensitivity, or aiming down sight sensitivity, to be 0 point, or something less than. I wouldn't put it too low, but I'd put it on 0.7 at the most. At the lowest, sorry, 0.9. I usually go about 0.9, and that means that you can, flip between targets a bit faster by, by cancelling the aim, using your quick sensitivity to flip between another enemy and then aiming. And when you aim, you'll have a lot more precision, because you're less likely to flick off the target and back onto the target, because your sensitivity is going to be a lot lower, more honed in. It's overall a massively beneficial thing to experiment with, because not everyone has the same sensitivity. I could sit here and tell you the best sensitivity for every game, but at the end of the day, it's my opinion. It's not going to be something that can affect you. I could recommend you use somewhere in between 6 to 9 of a sensitivity, and I would always put down your horizontal sensitivity less than your vertical sensitivity. Right then, guys, we're going to get to the next tip now. This is going to require you to spend a little bit of guap. I wouldn't say little bit. I'm being generous by saying a little bit, but quite a bit of guap. In this half of the video, we're going to be talking about one thing and one thing only: modded controllers. The first half was basically just on some of the button layouts and some settings that could make it easier for you if you have a standard controller. But a modded controller, especially couple of the expensive ones, will have a lot of features that will not require you to make any shortcuts, like switching your triggers to the bumpers or shortcutting any buttons to your analog sticks, I'm going to be talking about the Scuff Controllers. I don't see why these console companies have not thought about this before, but I have to mention it. Controllers with fucking paddles. Please so help me, these need to be normalized. So if you haven't heard of these controllers, I'm going to give a brief explanation. Scuff controllers are controllers that have been modified for gaming, specifically FPS gaming. These controllers come with either 2 or 4 paddles that are located underneath the controller. And you can shortcut whatever you need to those paddles. Of course, we need a jump and crouch. So those two can be added to the bottom paddles. And there could also be 2 free options for even reload and change weapons. You could play the whole game without taking a thumb off your analog sticks. They do take time to learn though, but practice is very necessary. Personally, myself, I've ordered, and it's just been delivered yesterday, the new PlayStation 5 Reflex FPS controller. Now this controller costed me 250 quid, British pounds. And obviously I'm waiting for the new card to come out to see if it's actually worth getting. But overall, it does feel good in the hands. It's got grips on the back of the controllers that are really, really nice and comfortable. It even takes out the time of pressing the bumpers and triggers and turns these buttons into hair triggers. They're like mouse clicks. You don't need to press the button all the way in to aim, shoot. It's literally at a click now. The vibration module has been taken out of this controller, so it is much lighter, and it does feel very comfortable in the hands. And when I rest my fingers, specifically my middle fingers on the controller, they are naturally resting on either of the paddles. These paddles are possibly the most comfortable paddles I have ever seen Scuff put out. And in comparison to the more destructible paddles that they have released that tend to snap off quite easily, these paddles look a lot more secure. But this controller has the potential to save so much of your time. It'll only get better with practice. When you first try the bottom paddles on a controller, it does feel somewhat alien and takes a lot of getting used to. Using jumping and crouching with the paddles is quite tough. It's like learning how to use the guitar, you know? I've never used my middle fingers when I'm gaming, and now I have to use them predominantly for jumping and crouching. Trust me when I say this, but the best practice that I have had so far was on Black Ops 3. Believe it or not. When you're navigating any map and you have the option to run, walk, there's a way of going around maps faster. And because I play quite a bit of Call of Duty Zombies, I'm used to this sort of mechanism where you slide and jump and slide and jump and slide and jump, and it really helps me navigate the maps a bit faster. But because my thumb was kind of grazing past, my thumb was kind of in between the circle button and X button, so it was just, the idea of tilting my thumb back and forth and you just press the buttons instantly, you know. I didn't have my analog stick set to anything because I would be using the knife quite a lot in zombies, especially in the first few rounds. So I just be flicking my thumb back and forth from the circle and the circle and the X button. But now, because I got the paddles, what I have been doing is by setting jump to the right paddle and setting crouch to the left one. And because the crouch button is quite close to the aim down the sights button. Because the crouch button is quite close to the aim button, what I've been doing is basically pressing them both at the same time, and that helps me drop shot quite easily. But what I have been doing to get my fingers used to pressing these paddles is using that, you know, jump slide routine just with the paddles, and it's been going really good. I'm not using it in this video currently. It's taken some getting used to, and it's a bit better because when I would stop jumping and crouching to look around, it would get pretty annoying because I would like to look around while jumping and crouching because I could make it never ending, and I could do that with the controller now. So I know it's a pretty simple thing to buy a £250 controller for, but so far it's looking good, and I haven't gone into a proper Call of Duty, you know, multiplayer yet, or played any Warzone with the controller yet. I'm going to try and use it fresh for Modern Warfare 2, but overall I'm still learning, but the prospects of this controller are huge at the moment. I'm really looking forward to using it. It feels really comfortable, and the mouse clicks are definitely useful. I hope you enjoyed these tips. I know they're not really tips, it's more of a recommendation before Modern Warfare 2 comes out, but in my next video it's going to be all about audio. And audio is 50% of a video, so it is just as important as what you're looking at, you know. So I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next one. In a bit.